Justice, at its core, it's supposed to be the great equalizer. The law is meant to be blind, impartial, and fair, treating everyone the same, no matter who they are. The image is iconic. Lady Justice, blindfolded, holding scales. She stands as a symbol that justice should weigh only the facts, not the faces. In theory, only your actions should matter in court, not your gender, not your background, not your story. But what if the blindfold slips? What if the scales are tilted even just a little? When we dig into the data, a troubling pattern emerges. For the same crime, men and women often receive very different sentences. This isn't just speculation. It's backed by years of research, court records, and countless case studies. Study after study shows that men consistently get harsher, longer sentences than women for identical offenses. For example, a 2012 federal study found that men received sentences that were, on average, 63% longer than women's for the same crimes. This isn't about who has it easier in life. It's about what happens in that critical moment when a judge hands down a sentence. The consequences ripple out, affecting families, communities, and the very idea of fairness. If justice isn't equal, is it really justice at all? What does it mean for our society if the system we trust to be fair is in fact tilted? Tonight we'll dig into the data, explore the reasons behind these disparities, and hear from those who've seen the system up close. Judges, lawyers, and people whose lives have been changed by a single verdict. Because if we want a fair system, we have to face where it's failing, and ask ourselves what true justice should look like. Maybe you're thinking, men just commit more serious crimes. Researchers have controlled for that. They've compared men and women with similar records, committing the same crimes, under similar circumstances. The results? Staggering. A University of Michigan study found men receive sentences 63% longer than women for the same crime. Women are also twice as likely to avoid incarceration altogether. The United States Sentencing Commission found the same. Even after accounting for crime severity and history, men are less likely to get leniency. This isn't a fluke, it's a systemic trend. Men are consistently penalized more harshly. For example, in federal fraud cases, men receive sentences averaging 21 months, while women average just 13 months for the same offense. In drug trafficking cases, men are 50% more likely to be sentenced to prison than women, even when controlling for prior convictions and role in the crime. And in real-world examples, two defendants, one male, one female, convicted of identical embezzlement charges in Texas, received dramatically different outcomes. The man got 5 years, the woman probation. The evidence is overwhelming, from the most credible sources. It's not a debate, it's a documented fact. So why is this happening? Why does this gap exist? The answer lies in the powerful combination of judicial discretion and deep-rooted stereotypes. Judges have significant flexibility in sentencing. They weigh factors like family responsibilities, potential for rehabilitation, and the circumstances of the crime. But this flexibility opens the door to personal biases, often unconscious ones. For example, a 2012 Yale study found that judges, when given identical case details, were more likely to assign lighter sentences to female defendants than to males. These biases can be subtle. Judges may not even realize when stereotypes are influencing their decisions. Stereotypes paint men as more dangerous, more likely to reoffend, women as less culpable, more redeemable. In one anecdote, a judge admitted to feeling protective toward a young mother, but not toward a young father in a similar case. A woman's role as a mother is often seen as a reason for leniency. A man's role as a father rarely is. Studies show that women are more likely to have their caregiving responsibilities considered during sentencing. This is called the chivalry thesis, benevolent sexism that still distorts justice. It's not just about being nice to women, it's about ingrained beliefs that women are less threatening and more deserving of a second chance. These biases shape perceptions of risk and blameworthiness. A 2015 study found that risk assessments themselves can be influenced by gendered assumptions. further compounding the disparity. A man's aggression is labeled criminal, while a woman's is often seen as emotional or circumstantial. When judges have discretion, these narratives tip the scales, sometimes dramatically. One review of federal sentencing found that, even after controlling for the crime, men received sentences 63% longer than women. The result? A massive, persistent sentencing gap, driven not just by the law, but by the people interpreting it. Let's look at real cases, because behind every statistic there's a story. In the Varsity Blues scandal, Felicity Huffman paid $15,000 and got 14 days in jail. Toby McFarlane paid more, but got 6 months. Same crime, different outcomes? The core crime was the same, but the sentences couldn't be more different. In embezzlement, Diane stole $100,000 and got probation. Her lawyer argued she was a first-time offender and a mother. Kirk, with a similar crime and family situation, got 2 years in prison. The judge cited the need for deterrence. In drug cases, Maria and Carlos were both first-time couriers with the same amount of cocaine. Maria got 30 months, Carlos got 60. Judges cited Maria's difficult upbringing and potential for rehabilitation. Her sentence was reduced for mitigating circumstances. Carlos's sentence was meant to send a message. No leniency, despite similar background. These aren't anomalies, they're daily realities. Across the country, the pattern repeats. The gender of the defendant is a powerful predictor of the sentence. Studies show men receive sentences 60% longer than women for the same crimes. Men are treated as hardened criminals, women as redeemable. The system sees mothers, not just offenders. These stories put a human face on the statistics. Every sentence changes a family's life. The ideal of blind justice remains just that, an ideal. The scales tip, often invisibly. The gap is real, and it's personal. For every statistic, there's a story of loss or relief. The question is, will we keep ignoring it, or finally confront the disparity? People inside the justice system see this disparity every day. Judges, attorneys, and probation officers all witness the patterns firsthand. A veteran defense attorney confided, "With a female client, I have a better chance of keeping her out of prison. Judges and juries see her as someone who can be rehabilitated, someone with a story. With a male client, it's an uphill battle," another lawyer told me. There's an assumption of danger, of repeat offending. I've seen judges look at two similar cases and treat them worlds apart. Former judges admit the bias is often unconscious. One retired judge shared, "Pre-sentencing reports for women highlight hardship and caregiving. For men, it's all about criminal history and risk. I didn't realize how much that shaped my decisions until years later." Prosecutors know juries are more sympathetic to women, so they offer better plea deals. "If I see a young mother, I'm more likely to recommend probation," one prosecutor admitted. "With men, I push for time served or more." For men, they push for tougher sentences, confident the jury won't see them as sympathetic. "There's a sense that men should take their punishment," a prosecutor said. "It's almost expected." These aren't just numbers, they're the culture of the courtroom. The stories lawyers tell, the way cases are framed, all reflect these biases. Probation officers describe feeling pressure to write reports that fit these narratives. "I've been told to emphasize a woman's family ties, but for men, it's about their record," one officer revealed. Judges, too, bring their own experiences and assumptions. "We're trained to be impartial, but we're human," a sitting judge reflected. "Sometimes I catch myself making snap judgments." The system is made of people, and people have biases. "It's in every conversation, every decision," a court clerk said. "Acknowledging this is the first step." "We can't change what we don't see," a judge admitted. As one defense lawyer said, "You can't fix a problem until you admit you have one." And in this system, we all play a part. Our justice system has a serious gender problem. The insiders know it. Now, so do we. This isn't just a legal issue, it's a human one, with real families living through the consequences every day. When men get sentences 63% longer, families lose years with fathers, sons, and brothers, like Maria, who brings her children to visit their dad every month, only to say goodbye through a pane of glass. Children grow up without support, often falling into cycles of poverty and disadvantage. For some, like Jamal, the absence of a parent means missing out on guidance, love, and stability. The economic impact is huge. Families lose breadwinners, communities lose stability. Grandparents step in, parents work multiple jobs, and neighborhoods struggle to hold together. Mass incarceration, fueled by these disparities, costs billions. But the true cost is measured in broken families and lost futures. When men return from prison, they face barriers to jobs and housing, increasing the risk of reoffending. For many, like David, the stigma never fades, making it nearly impossible to rebuild. Harsher sentences for men destabilize families and communities, leaving scars that last for generations. It erodes trust in the legal system, fueling anger and protest. If people see the law as rigged, respect for it collapses. Children grow up doubting fairness, and hope fades from entire communities. Justice must be fair to be respected. Every sentence ripples outward, touching lives far beyond the courtroom. The ripple effects of unequal sentencing are too damaging to ignore. Behind every statistic is a story, a family, a future, a community forever changed. So where does this leave us? The promise of equal justice is not being kept. The data is clear, the stories are real, and insiders confirm the problem. Men are systematically sentenced more harshly than women for the same crimes. But the solution isn't harsher sentences for women. It's fairer ones for everyone. We need to tackle the root causes: judicial discretion and unconscious bias. Judges and prosecutors need better training to recognize and counteract bias. Sentencing guidelines should be more objective, less open to stereotypes. A father's caregiving should matter as much as a mother's. Men's potential for rehabilitation should be judged on facts, not stereotypes. The focus must be on the individual, not their gender. Justice should fit the crime, not the person. Lady Justice's blindfold isn't decoration, it's a job description. True justice doesn't see gender. Around the world, reforms are making a difference. Some courts now require bias training, others use data-driven sentencing to reduce disparities. These changes prove progress is possible. We can demand more from our justice system. We can support organizations fighting for reform, vote for leaders who prioritize fairness, and hold our courts accountable. Justice should be blind, not biased. Let's work together to make that promise real, for everyone. Until our system reflects that, it isn't truly just.